Hello and happy Monday. Today we're going to start reviewing for the leap. Next week you'll take the practice leap, and in just a few weeks after that you'll take the real leap. You've been doing such a good job this year. I know you're going to keep up that great work. I know it, and so does Mr. Smiles. Today we're going to talk about writing and comparing decimals. Let's jump right in. We'll start with a do now. Find the volume of the rectangular prism below. Remember, to find volume, I can multiply length times width times height. So let's do it. What's 10 times 3? The length times the width. It's 30. Now I can multiply times the height. What's 30 times 4? Well, 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 3 is 12. So the answer is 120 cubic inches. Now you try one. What's the volume of the rectangular prism in question 1b? The correct answer is 70 cubic centimeters. 7 times 2 is 14, and 14 times 5 is 70. Now let's write some numbers in standard form. Remember, when a number is written in expanded form, I can write it in standard form because each digit is multiplied by its place value. So let's draw a place value chart quickly. Hundreds, tens, ones. Remember, the decimal comes after the ones place. Then tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. Then I can just plug the digits in. Which digit is in the hundreds place? 3 is in the hundreds place. Which digit is in the tens place? Well, there's no digit in the tens place, so I can place a 0. Which digit is in the ones place? 2 is in the ones place. Which digit is in the tenths place? 4 is in the tenths place. Remember, the decimal goes between the ones and the tenth. Which digit is in the hundredths place? It's a 0. Which digit is in the thousandths place? It's a 7. So the correct answer is 302 and 407 thousandths. Now you try one. Don't forget to draw a place value chart on your paper. Write the number below in standard form. Let's see how you did. The correct answer is 253 and 58 thousandths. The 2 is in the hundreds place. The 5 is in the tens place. The 3 is in the ones place. The 5 is in the hundredths place, so a 0 goes in the tenths place. And the 8 is in the thousandths place. We also talked about multiplying multi-digit numbers. So we're going to multiply 2,395 times 184. When I multiply by a 3-digit number, I can do 3 separate multiplication problems. First, 4 times 2,395, the digit in the ones place. Then 80 times 2,395, the digit in the tens place. Then 100 times 2,395. Let's go ahead and do that multiplication now. I can start with the top row. What's 4 times 5? It's 20. What's 4 times 9? It's 36, plus 2 more is 38. What's 4 times 3? It's 12, plus 3 more is 15. What's 4 times 2? It's 8, plus 1 more is 9. Now I'm finished multiplying by the 4 in the ones place. I'm moving to the 8 in the tens place. What should I do now? I need to drop a 0 to show I'm multiplying in the tens place. Now I can do that. What's 8 times 5? It's 40. What's 8 times 9? It's 72. Plus 4 more is 76. What's 8 times 3? It's 24. Plus 7 more is 31. What's 8 times 2? It's 16, plus 3 more is 19. Now I'm done multiplying by my 8. What do I need to do before I multiply by the 1 in the hundreds place? I need to drop 2 zeros to show that I'm multiplying in the hundreds place. Now I can multiply. What's 1 times 5? It's 5. What's 1 times 9? It's 9. What's 1 times 3? It's 3. What's 1 times 2? It's 2. My final step is to add all 3 of my partial products. Go ahead and do that addition problem now. When you're done, type your answer without a comma. The correct answer is 440,680. Now you try one. What's 5,426 times 472? Enter your answer without a comma. The correct answer is 2,561,072. Check your work with mine on screen. We also talked about operating with fractions. Let's take a look at an example. Jordan ran 1/4 of a mile on Monday and 2/5 of a mile on Tuesday. How many miles did Jordan run on Monday and Tuesday? Well, what operation would I use to solve this problem? I would add. I'm putting together the distance from Monday and the distance from Tuesday. I need to add 1/4 and 2/5. I can't add them like they are because they don't have the same denominator. So I need to list my multiples and find the least common denominator. Go ahead and list the multiples of 4 and 5 and find your least common denominator now. The least common denominator is 20. Now I need to multiply to create equivalent fractions to add. 1/4 equals what over 20? Well, 4 times 5 is 20, and 1 times 5 is 5. 2/5 equals what over 20? Well, 5 times 4 is 20, and 2 times 4 is 8. So now my fractions have the same denominator, and I can add them. What's 5/20 plus 8/20? The answer is 13/20. Now you try one. Tamia did 1/3 of her math homework on Monday and 3/8 of her math homework Tuesday. How much of her math homework did Tamia do on Monday and Tuesday? Go ahead and try that problem now. The correct answer is 17/24. Check your work with mine. We might also use different operations with fractions. Neil bought 8 feet of board for an art project. He cut the board into pieces that were each 1/4 of a foot long. How many pieces could Neil cut? What operation do I need to use to solve this problem? This is a division problem because something is being cut into equal pieces. What's being split up in this problem? The 8 feet of board is being split up. So what division problem can I use? I'm dividing 8 into 1/4. I can draw a model to solve this problem. What should I start by drawing? I should start by drawing 8 holes. How many pieces should I cut each hole into? I should cut each hole into 4 pieces for fourths. Now, how many pieces could Neil cut? How many fourths are inside of 8? Well, there are 32 pieces. Now you try one. Zion was making clay figures for an art project. She had 6 pounds of clay. Each figure used 1/3 pound of clay. How many clay figures could she make? Go ahead and solve that problem now. Zion could make 18 clay figures. She's splitting 6 pounds into groups of 1/3 pound. 6 divided by 1/3 is 18. Now let's try our last 2 now problem. Miss Hale bought a rug for her library. The rug was 3/4 foot long and 5/8 foot wide. What was the area of the rug in square feet? Well, what operation would I use? I multiply to find area, 3/4 times 5/8. Remember, when I multiply fractions, I can multiply straight across. What's 3/4 times 5/8? Well, 3 times 5 is 15, and 4 times 8 is 32, so the answer is 15 over 32. Now you try one. What is the area of a rectangle with a length of 1/5 foot and a width of 7/8 feet in square feet? The correct answer is 7 over 40. 1/5 times 7/8 is 7/40. Now let's do our fluency. Find the ordered pair for each point. Remember, to find the ordered pair, we count over first and then up. Over is the x-coordinate and up is the y-coordinate. What's the ordered pair for point y? Well, point y is 0 over and 7 up. Now find the rest of the ordered pairs for number 1. Check your work with mine. Remember, we go over first, that's the x-coordinate, then up, that's the y-coordinate. What's the ordered pair for each point in number 2? Check your work with mine. What's the ordered pair for each point in number 3? Check your work with mine. Remember to go over first and then up. What's the ordered pair for each point in number 4? Check your work with mine. Now let's dive into today's lesson. Today we're going to talk about writing and comparing decimals. We can use place value to help us write decimals. Remember, the decimal point is always located behind the ones place. It's the smallest whole number place value. Let's fill in our place values into our chart. We'll put the decimal point right in the middle. The first whole number place value is the ones, then the tens, then the hundreds. The first decimal place value is the tenths, or 1 over 10, the hundredths, one over 100, or the thousandths. One over 1,000. We can use those place values to help us write decimals. If a decimal is written in word form and we want to write it in standard form, we can take a certain amount of steps. First, we're going to write the number before and. That's the whole number. Then we're going to write a decimal point for and. We'll write the number behind the and. That's the decimal. Then we'll use zeros to make sure that number ends in the correct place value. Let's do some examples. 32 and 58/100ths. Well, first I'm going to write the number before the and. 32. How do I write 32? Yeah, it's just 3, 2. I'm going to put a decimal point for the and. Now I'll write the number behind the and. 58. How do I write 58? Like that. Does it end in the hundredths place? Yes. So my answer is 32.58. 32 and 58/100ths. What's 32 and 58 thousandths? Well, first I'm going to write my 32. How do I write 32? Then I can put my decimal point for and write my 58. 58 doesn't end in the thousands place. I have to use a placeholder 0 to move it over. Now my number is correct. 32.058. 32 and 58 thousandths. Now you try a few. 302 and 58 thousandths. Go ahead and write that number now. Well, 302 decimal and 58 thousandths. 302 and 58/100ths. Go ahead and try that number now. It's 302.58 5.58, 302 and 58 hundredths. 12 and 2 tenths. Go ahead and write that number. It's 12.2, 12 and 2 tenths. 12 and 2 hundredths. Go ahead and write that number. Well, this time the 2 needs to be in the hundredths place, so it's 12.02. 12 and 2 thousandths. Go ahead and write that number. This time the 2 needs to be in the thousandths place, so it's 12.002. We also talked about writing numbers in expanded form. In expanded form, each digit is multiplied by its place value. So we can write each digit in the correct place, and we can put a 0 anywhere there isn't a digit. Let's look at number 1. 5 times 100 plus 4 times 10 plus 6 times 1 plus 2 times 1/10 plus 8 times 1 over 100. Let's go ahead and solve that problem now. 5 is in the hundreds place, 4 is in the tens place, and 6 is in the ones place. 2 is in the tenths place right next to the decimal, but 8 is in the thousandths place. I have to put a 0 in the hundredths place. Now you try one. 3 times 1/10 plus 4 times 1 over 1,000. I know that there's 0 as my whole number. Write that decimal now. Well, 3 is in the tenths place, and 4 is in the thousandths place. So the answer is 0.304. Now try another. Write number 3 in standard form. Well, 1 is in the hundreds place, 7 is in the tens place, and there's nothing in the ones place. There's nothing in the tenths place. There's an 8 in the hundreds place and a 4 in the thousandths place. The correct answer is 170 and 84 thousandths. Now try a couple problems on your own. Which of these is another way to write 509 and 67 hundredths? Select 2 correct answers. Go ahead and find the 2 correct answers now. The correct answers are D and E. Both are equal to 509 and 67 hundredths. Now try the last question. Write the decimal in standard form. 5 times 100 plus 2 times 10 plus 3 times 1 plus 6 times 1/10 plus 4 times 1 over 1,000. Go ahead and write that in standard form now. The correct answer is 523 and 604 thousandths. We also talked about comparing decimals. To compare decimals, first write every number in standard form. Then line up the decimals and compare from left, the greater place values, to right. We'll do an example. 2 thousandths compared to 12 thousandths. Well, if I line up the decimal points and compare from left to right, the first place I can compare in is the hundredths place. 12 thousandths is greater than 2 thousandths because 1 in the hundredths place is greater than 0 in the hundredths place. We'll do one more together. 3 tenths and 299 thousandths. Remember, I can add placeholder zeros at the end of decimal numbers. Which number is greater? Well, if I look in the tenths place, 3 tenths is greater than 2 tenths, so 3 tenths is greater. Now you try one. Make sure you line up the decimals and add zeros as necessary. Which one's greater, 705 thousandths or 7 tenths? 705 thousandths is greater. When I compare 0 and 705 thousandths to 0 and 7 tenths, I can see that a 5 in the thousandths place is greater than 0 in the thousandths place. Now try another. 15 and 203 thousandths compared to 15 and 21 hundredths. Which one's greater? Well, when I line them up, I can see that a 1 in the hundredths place is greater than a 0 in the hundredths place. So the correct answer is 15 and 21 hundredths. Now I need to compare two decimals that aren't written in standard form. To do that, I need to write them both in standard form. How do I write the first number in standard form? Well, it's 32 and 302 thousandths. How do I write the second number in standard form? It's 32 and 45 thousandths. Now I can line them up to compare. Which one's greater? 32 and 302 thousandths is greater. 3 in the tenths place is greater than 0 in the tenths place. Now we'll compare some decimals that aren't written in standard form. Go ahead and try. 6 and 702 thousandths or 6 and 72 thousandths. Which one's greater? 6 and 702 thousandths is greater because 7 in the tenths place is greater. Try another. 9 and 409 thousandths or 9 and 42 hundredths. 9 and 42 hundredths is greater because 2 in the hundredths place is greater. 35 and 72 hundredths or 3 times 10 plus 5 times 1 plus 8 times 1/10. 35 and 8 tenths is greater. 5 times 1 plus 2 times 1/10 plus 7 times 1 over 100, or 5 and 3 tenths. 5 and 3 tenths is greater. You've done a great job on this video. There are several IXL skills to try. Make sure that when you get a SMART score of 90, you raise your hand so that your teacher can sign off on that skill. Go ahead and go to IXL now.